weirdly, I found the first ever invoice that I charged at 17. I've got it in like a ring binder in my personal files, and I looked at it and I saw the date, and it was a month and a half before my 18th birthday.
Yeah.
It was quite a decent amount of money for a 17-year-old to be charging. Like, I lost high five figures at like 20, and but then I look back at it now, and I'm really glad that happened, because it taught me something. There's a saying, "This too shall pass." The good times will pass and the bad times will pass. So don't be too happy when it's good. Don't be too sad when it's bad.
Welcome to the Silent Epidemic by Omniotherapy. I'm your host, Hatija Mehmetquirk. Today we're speaking with Kaiyan Ali, the founder and managing director of Montaj Digital. From humble beginnings, cold calling businesses at 17, to launching a digital agency that helps companies thrive in the modern world, Kaiyan is a true entrepreneur at heart. His holistic approach, the Montaj Method, is transforming the way businesses approach sales and marketing in the digital age. Kaiyan, welcome to the show. Let's start by hearing about your journey. What led you to found Montaj Digital?
Thanks for having me. Really excited to be here.
No, thank you for taking the time.
So what led me to found Montaj Digital? So, I mean, I've had a wealth of experience, luckily, from the age of 14, working with my dad every single summer. He's got a construction company, so I was doing a lot of the manual labour side of things. But seeing mainly the wealth and size of central London every single day, which really kind of inspired me from such a young age. And from that, I would often speak to the owners of these properties, and they'll tell me they're investment bankers or they're lawyers or they're in software or whatever high-tech kind of industry they're in. And that actually sparked my interest in economics. So it's kind of a bit of a shift to understand, but I ended up studying economics at university, which will be important in a minute. But why did at 17, I basically, funny enough, watched a YouTube video about digital marketing, and I always had in the back of my head, get into banking, earn a load of money, get a load of contacts, and then leave after 7 years and do my own thing. What my own thing was, I'll figure that out when I get there, was always the plan. However, the world was increasingly getting more digital. People were increasingly on their phones. Time spent is ridiculous at the moment as it is. And I stumbled across a video about Facebook ads. And I was like, what's this Facebook ad stuff? Started learning about it. I've always been very, very curious, always that kid asking why, which I think is a big reason to why I'm able to do so many things, why I've got so much confidence, because I've always just asked and figured it out. And I learned about it, and I thought, this is quite cool. What am I going to test this on? So then I watched another video about cold calling, and I was like, cold calling, that's interesting. I like chatting, but I'm also get butterflies in my stomach like everyone else when you have to like speak in front of people, whatnot. And I made a list of all the local businesses in my area, and I just started calling them. And I said, hey, at 17, whilst I was in between studying, I was like, hey, did you know that these Facebook ad stuff, like, you can get loads of business off of it? The pitch was a little bit more refined than that, but that was the gist of that was the gist of the pitch, right? And I can't remember how many. It felt like hundreds, but it probably was only like 30 or 40. Out of those that I called, three of them actually, had agreed to meet with me. I thought, cool. Now I've got to actually make out that I know what I'm doing. So I went to see 2 gyms and a burger restaurant actually in my local area. And it happened that I saw one of the gyms first. They kind of were a waste of time. But the process of me going there, preparing a presentation, going to speak to these people, quite cool. Same with the restaurant. They weren't really interested. The third business that I went to see was like, this is interesting. They had a few questions, and I said, why don't you come back with the answers to these questions and we'll have a little chat. So did that, went back, put together a really good presentation. Probably if I looked at it now, probably wouldn't be as good as what I can do now, but went back to them and I agreed, and they agreed. And it was quite a decent amount of money for a 17-year-old to be charging. So I agreed, worked with them for a few months, then managed to work on a few like family friend businesses and whatnot. And then I kind of came to a crossroads, and this was like the first time where I was really like, what do I do? because I'd always had my life set out for me. I knew from a young age what I wanted to do, and I was like, well, I've actually got the privilege of having different decisions, to the different options. Yeah, like I had all these paths in front of me. I could go work for my dad and help him grow his business. I could go study economics and become a banker like I originally planned. I could forget all of those and just go my own path and start digital marketing. I decided to do the second one. I thought, I know you could go to university at a later age, but I thought 18, all my friends, especially the school I went to, it was kind of strange not to go to university. I thought, cool, let's just do this university thing. I can always revisit this when I'm a bit more, mature, I guess, even though I was quite mature at the age. So I got into York to study economics, went there, studied economics, and COVID happened the first year I started. So we got sent home.
Oh, wow.
I had a lot of obviously free time, unfortunately. But again, I was learning about trading. I was learning about digital marketing again. And then that's kind of where it re-sparked. I started learning how to build websites again, started learning everything else about ads that you could know. And then I thought during university, I'd studied economics, I really enjoyed it. I did a few cool internships in consulting, and I thought, I don't know if I want to do that. And I thought, kind of thinking about, like weighing up the risk. I was in a privileged position where I didn't need to work straight out of uni. Like I could take my time a little bit. Where a lot of my friends decided to go traveling or just work in a local pub, which is fine. I thought, why don't I take this opportunity to start again? So I decided to then relaunch. I graduated in June. Got my first paying client for the new kind of relaunch, I guess, in the October, and the rest has been history, really. Like I've just been doing as good a job as I can and getting referred and building up the team and the business and whatnot.
Wow. So it sounds like, I mean, you mentioned it because when you said it, that's what the thought that crossed my mind. You mentioned initially about sort of asking questions when you used to go to work with your dad, and sort of asking them questions and sort of seeing the different industries, the different options that the world has.
Yeah.
Because we don't always know that when we're
Definitely.
younger, right? We sort of just see what our parents are doing or what our family members might be doing. And you think they're the options. You obviously have a few different ideas, but to be able to stop and ask all these intricate questions of different people, you were then able to think, oh, that's an option and that's an option. But that curiosity, as you quite well pointed out, has almost been that spark to this setting up of a business, because that curiosity sparked, oh, what does this mean? And how can I do it? And then you were able to see the vision of what digital marketing is in today's world.
Yeah.
Almost 5 years ago.
It's a very good point, and weirdly, I found the first ever invoice that I charged at 17. I've got it in like a ring binder in my personal files, and I looked at it and I saw the date, and it was a month and a half before my 18th birthday. And I was like, if I just kept that then, what would I have been now? But then I pulled myself back and I said, actually, you're right, because since then I'd got a degree in economics. I'd worked for the FCA for a few weeks, like Financial Conduct Authority, worked for like an investment firm. I'd learned all these different skill sets where I based the foundation of what we do, the holistic side of things. It is like, we're not just going to run your ads and how a normal marketer, because if you looked on traditional on paper, I'm not a marketer. I just understand data and understand psychology, and I put those things together, and then that is, like you said, the digital world. So yeah, it is an interesting point. And also I think just not being afraid to fail, because like that causes me a lot of stress at times. So as the stakes get increasingly higher, I think a lot of people think the stress gets higher and harder, and to an extent it does. But I think learning from a young age that that's a normal part of daily life, and treating stress, anxiety, whatever it may be, like a muscle almost. That's how I look at it. It's like you need to push it a little bit to see where that biting point is, and then you can adjust things afterwards. Because there's people like Elon Musk, who's running multi-billion-pound businesses. He gets stressed that people can't comprehend, but it's in his contextual life. So I think it's understanding that you've got to take all those decisions as you can. So I think just using the opportunity that I was blessed with, like I thought, why not? If it doesn't go well, you move on. And that's like a positive reframing that you kind of have to do sometimes.
Just a quick break from today's episode. Let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention: mental health at work. If you run a business, you've probably seen it: stress, burnout, employees who aren't performing at their best because they're struggling. The problem? Most companies don't know how to address mental health in a way that actually helps their team. That's where Omnia Corporate Training comes in. We provide CPD certified mental health training that's practical, flexible, and designed to fit into any workplace. If you want to invest in your team's well-being, and let's be real, happy employees perform better, tap the link in the show notes or visit omniahealthgroup.com to learn more. And it sounds like you've been really supported by your family, really inspired by
Yeah.
your family. And again, you've mentioned, having being in the position where you could take that risk as such of, well, let's see how it goes. Do I take that grad job or do I go into this position and see where I go? And thankfully, it's taken off for you, and it's gone well. Not to discount the stress and the pressure
Yeah.
that you've been through in the process, because I dare say that there are moments where you're like, oh my God, as with any business.
Yeah, it's right. And I had like quite an interesting upbringing in terms of fantastic like upbringing, but as in like everyone, everyone in my family or my family circle that have done well for themselves was always off entrepreneurship or something off their own back at least. But I was also the first person to go to university. Um, my parents had me quite young, and family couldn't give them that opportunity. So then going to the sixth form that I went to was very academic. Everyone I was around there, their families were doctors, lawyers, very educated, like third, fourth, fifth generation. So I had that perfect understanding almost of both sides.
Yeah,
And again, it was just like a accumulation of good things. But yeah, massive support. And like I said, calling my dad, I remember it quite well, like calling my dad, and I said, Dad, obviously we spoke about these grad jobs that I've been offered or could be offered and how much they pay. And obviously you've supported me and whatnot. I'm not going to do that. And he said, well, what are you going to do then? Are you planning to faff about, or what are you planning to do? I told him my idea. He said, yeah. He goes, business owners make more money anyway. He said, got my support, son. And I was like, that's cool. I was like, nice. That's one stress taken off of my shoulders.
Yeah. The thing that crossed my mind earlier when you said about you went into uni and you've sort of gone in, and obviously that dreaded time of COVID and lockdown, and to go and be excited going away to York, and then be told actually you've got to go home. You sound like you took the difficult period and worked it to your advantage to build on your knowledge and build on your expertise whilst maintaining a degree at home, well, while everyone's stuck indoors, etc. It shows strength and courage, because obviously at that time there was a lot of people where the isolation led to a lot of demotivation. It sounds like for you it done the complete opposite.
Yeah, it was a very weird period for me because I'm an extremely social person. Like I really do well when being around other people whose energy like I thrive with. And as much as I love my family, there's a lot of us. There's 6 of us in the house, so it did get a lot at certain periods. But you are right. I just had that curiosity, and like I was really interested in trading at the time because again, I was still like I'll just be a trader in the city. So I actually ended up turning a small amount of money into quite a lot of money, and then losing it all. Like I lost high 5 figures at like 20. And that in itself, I was like, wow, this is not the best situation. And but then I look back at it now, and I'm really glad that happened because it taught me something. And I don't know exactly where it came from, but I know I'd consumed a lot of, I don't want to say self-help, but like motivational kind of personal development stuff from a very, very young age. Just loved it for whatever reason. So I kind of look at everything that happens as like a lesson to not make that mistake again. So it's like, okay, cool, that happened at this stage. I know why that happened. Wasn't diversifying risk. I wasn't doing X, Y, Z. Now I can take those into future things and make sure it doesn't happen again. And there's been recent scenarios where I've had ex-team members do big mistakes. And rather than kind of just blaming everything on them, I always take the onus on myself It's like, what could I have done better? And take that as a lesson and make sure that doesn't happen again. So yeah, it is. And going back to the COVID times, why that was, just because I enjoyed it really. Like I was just fortunate that I enjoyed that. Don't get me wrong, I did the other things, played a bit too much PlayStation, I watched a few too many shows. But then going back to what I did actually is in my second year when things started opening up a bit, I decided to go back and live in York.
Yeah.
So me and my friends that lived together, I really pushed on them. I had one friend that was really into the gym. Me was really into all this kind of stuff. I had another friend that was really interested in all these other things. And we thought, well, we're going to be here anyway. We might as well just share ideas and like just do fun stuff. So we'd work out together, we'd work together, we'd learn together, and getting like a group of people. I was speaking about it before we started. Finding a group of people who are like-minded. Doesn't have to just be business. If you love, anything in particular.
If you've got a passion, you've got a passion.
Exactly, right? And then you feed off it, because when me going and telling maybe you something about marketing, obviously you care because you've got a business yourself. You won't have that same desire or drive to like nerd out about it as I would, right? Whereas if you were nerding out, we'd both nerd out together, and then we could be chatting for hours, right? There's other stuff we could talk about. But yeah, so I think surrounding yourself with people, it doesn't have to be in person either. That's what the beauty of digital is. You find people online. For chat rooms, be careful, but chat rooms, like whatever it is, for connections. Traveling for me has been really important. Meeting people, there's certain hotspots that are known for certain things. So put yourself in a situation. The rest will kind of figure itself out.
It seems to be a consistent theme with your outlook on life in terms of learning from your mistakes. Like you've mentioned, losing a considerable sum of money, but now having that attitude of, I'm really glad that happened because it taught me and I learned from it. And even, going to uni, or even when you started the business at 17, then you took the break to go to uni. And no, I'm pleased I've done that because I was able to have this experience and that experience and gain that outlook, etc., etc. So your positive mindset of even being able to see the positives in the negatives seems to be a real driving force for you.
Yeah, it's been a journey though, because ask anyone that knows me or that knew me from when I was young. If I wasn't good at something, I wouldn't do it. Right. I would throw my toys in the pram, out the pram even, until kind of recently, and I just would decide not to do it until actually again going back to studying, because that was a really strong thing in my family. Being a family, like I said, being the first to go to university, but my parents they spent a lot of time and effort on me from a young age to make sure I was being tutored and studying and all this kind of stuff. But like English, I was rubbish at it, or I thought I was rubbish at it. I gave myself that limiting self-belief that I was rubbish at it. But I sat there one time and I was like, well, I'm good at everything else. Like in terms of I'm capable of doing decent at everything else. Why am I not good at this? Then when I started taking a step and realizing maybe I didn't enjoy the way I was being taught, or I just had no interest in it, or I was getting rubbish marks. And I didn't have that mindset to push myself. So I was failing that. And then realizing that, put that extra work in, and then I actually did end up doing really well, for example. So it's like just going through it and realizing onto the next one. Like you're going to get pushed down loads. And I think it's a common theme. Like you look at a lot of successful people, they say the successful business you know them for is their 20th try. Like, Virgin failed at first, and now everyone knows
it's a household name, right?
Exactly. And I think you need to take those. Yeah, just take everything. Don't, there's a saying, this too shall pass. The good times will pass and the bad times will pass. So don't be too happy when it's good. Don't be too sad when it's bad. It's like more of a stoic. So that's actually a big reason why I studied a lot about stoicism. It's like there's a lot of things you can't control.
Yeah.
And I used to be a control freak, and I would be down over something I couldn't control. So being anxious about something is, so again, this is a stoic saying, like being anxious about something, you're dying twice. So why would you put yourself through something that you can't control? A lot easier said than done, and I know a lot of people struggle with that. But that is obviously the benefit of understanding your mental health, and that is all it is. Your brain controls everything in your body, controls how you feel, controls how you move. So reframing that, you control yourself, you can control everything.
So having an understanding of that philosophy has really helped shape your outlook and your approach to life.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Good. Just a quick break from today's episode. If you've ever tried to get therapy, you know how frustrating it can be. You're finally ready to talk to someone, but you've been stuck on a waiting list for months. That's not how mental health support should work. Omnia Therapy makes getting help simple. You can book a session with a fully qualified professional in just 24 hours. No waiting, no contracts, just real support when you need it. And at £40 per session is actually affordable. If you're struggling, don't wait. Tap the link in the show notes or head to omniahealthgroup.com to book your session today. So, your outlook is quite positive. You pick things apart. You go into a lot of intricate detail in to understand things, and not even just how the business side works, but also your own self, to be able to identify you've got sort of limiting beliefs around English, and then work at it to then get the results that you were even surprised yourself by the sounds of it. It's quite a skill. Now you're running a business. Obviously, that is a pressure in itself. Has it all been plain sailing?
Yeah, it's a good question. No, more more often than not, it isn't plain sailing, and I'm speaking very positively because I have got a positive outlook on things. But to be honest with you, a lot of the time, my brain is a bit like a storm. There's a lot going on, and also I'm very conscious of the fact that not all I have, but my main focus right now is just business. Like I don't have kids that depend on me, or like someone that really depends on me in that sense, financially or emotionally right now. So like I know that again, things are going to get harder. Like I kind of said earlier, it hasn't all been plain sailing, and like I said, there's been many times, thankfully not in the last 6 months, but many times where I've opened up big jobs that I was looking at before and thought I could get this. I could just get this salary, forget all this headache, and just go and do it.
Yeah, 9 to 5, job done.
Exactly right. Yeah, and earn more in my pocket that probably that I am now. But I think that is because I can always that is always a sign to me when I'm probably getting close to that burnout stage. When I start having when I start not believing that I can do what I can do, is when I start realizing maybe it's time to take a little step back. And I was on a call with you actually, we're doing some work, and you said, "Kai, are you okay? You look very tired." And you weren't the first person to say that to me that I looked up to and respected in that week. That wasn't also family and seeing me on a daily basis. So that really sparked my brain. I was like, okay, this is, can't just make a joke about working really hard on their stuff because, like, although it's true, like, it's just obviously a concern because, yeah. And then we spoke briefly and made me understand a bit more. Sorry, that I was probably a bit too close to that burnout stage. And now I think I've noticed the stages of burnout a little bit more. And again, taking that kind of approach I take to everything else, I always think, another hour, I can work another hour. There's been so on top of all this, it's a bit relevant to the story as well. Actually, on top of when I came home to start my business, I used to tutor GCSE maths. So I thought to earn money for myself, so I don't have to touch business money. I would pick that back up. And I still do that to this day because I actually enjoy it. So all day Saturday and all Friday evenings, I still tutor maths. I don't really need to, but I love doing it. Obviously, and it pays me as well. So it's just nice. But there's days where I literally will work 16 hours straight. Like, as in, I'll work on the business all day, then I'll do 3-4 hours of tutoring. And I'll go to bed at a silly time and I'll wake up again at a silly time to do a few hours, then tutor all day, and I'm just flat out. And I thought it was normal. You just go until you can't go. And what would happen is I would go hard for as long as I could. And then I'll just be depleted for 2-3 days. And something you said was like, you're better off doing 8, 9, 10, 11 hours of really good work than 16 hours of not so good work. And me being an analytical person sat down and ran the numbers and I thought, you know what, as an hour perspective, you probably are right. If I'm going to be destroyed for 2 or 3 days. Don't get me wrong, I still put in those hours because I love it. But there is times now where I'll be like, I think you said it to me, it's like, is sending this piece of work at this time compared to tomorrow when you're fresh really going to make much of a difference? So a lot of the time I ask myself that question now. Sometimes the answer is it has to be done right now. But half the time it's like, this can wait. So it is better to have that extra hour of sitting playing on my phone or watching TV or sleeping. Probably better to do that. But then forcing myself to do this work that's going to be subpar when I compare it to a fresh brain. So yeah, doing that has helped me. But saying that, I've only been able to do that because I'm putting the infrastructure and systems in place around me to be able to do that. And I think that is a big thing. You need to have a system or a support network. So how you mentioned about my parents being the belief factor, I also need that internal system that there's some tasks that I shouldn't be doing within my business. So giving that to the team, for example, will give myself mental bandwidth, and it allows me to do the high leverage things, which also means I'm not just thinking about every single thing, which although I am in the back of my head, I don't have to be boots on the ground. So that is also, given me that kind of framework.
So I just want to clarify, because obviously I know and you know, because we had the conversation together, and you have kind of mentioned it, but I just want to reframe it for the listeners.
Sure.
For you, what you noticed was happening before we had the conversation was that you were burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
Kept going, 16, 17-hour days. And your cycle of burnout would be that you would go until you hit that wall where you literally physically couldn't do anything for 2 to 3 days, whether that would be a migraine, whether that would be some form of illness, whether it would just be completely drained and your head just can't focus on a task because you're shut out, right? And again, when we spoke about it, it was sort of like 6 to 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, whatever it may be, depending, I suppose, on how hard you were hitting it, right? And then you've said you've gone away. I love that you've gone away and crunched the numbers, and you're able to now see that actually balancing that and taking time to do jobs within suitable working hours, where you can factor in time for yourself to just de-stress and do things for you, playing your phone, sit with friends, go to the gym, just chill out and recharge those batteries, enables you to be able to maintain and just keep going at a steady level pace, which is going to bring you balance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, balance is an interesting one as well, because I'm not sure how much balance I of course believe in, but I do also, you need to take things into context of the situation as well, because also there's times where there's no balance, and there's been times where I love going to the gym, try to go 4 or 5 times a week, like sometimes I can't, and what you said is exactly right. I need to take my time for myself, but also I used to be really hard on myself, and by that I mean I would work 12, 14 hours and say I still need to go to the gym, for example, and I'd go and I'd have a rubbish session, and I'd say to myself, at least I went, better. And it is true, but then I would be going to that cycle, I'd push that cycle, I'd make that cycle shorter of that burnout period. So again, just being, I'm not going to go to the gym tonight, I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to go first thing in the morning, and I'm still going to tick that box in my head. But yeah, it's true, there's exactly, you said it almost spot on. So even like taking breaks to recharge myself, and what you said I didn't even touch on, but it's true. Spending time with people that recharge my batteries, whoever that is. Like, there's a lot of people in my life that do that, thankfully, and I'm at that age where I can pick and choose who I spend time with, when I spend time with them. So yeah, definitely taking that time for sure.
Just a quick break from today's episode. Have you ever felt like the kind of support you need just doesn't exist? Maybe you need help outside of normal hours. Maybe you don't even know where to start. That's why Omnia Neurodiscovery exists. We offer specialised, flexible mental health support, including intensive evening and weekend packages for people who need something different. If that sounds like what you've been looking for, don't wait. Tap the link in the show notes or visit omniahealthgroup.com to find out how we can help. The Montaj Method is at the core of your approach. How does it differentiate your strategies from other digital agencies?
It's a good question. So the actual name montage comes from the Turkish word montage, to assemble. So the idea was always we bring all of the pieces of your business and your marketing together. And going back to kind of what I've spoken about in this short chat, it's a holistic approach. A lot of people will just look at your ads and say, this is just working. A lot of people just look at your website and say, this is how you do a good website. We want to take a look at the whole funnel. And that is where the Montaj method comes from. And each letter means certain things, but it is, going through each of them, and it's like looking at your market. Who are your market? Optimizing your offer, and niching down into your target audience, and allowing us to work like that and have that holistic approach is really powerful. And I think it allows us to do a better job for people as well, because we really get into the teeth, like we sink our teeth into our clients' businesses. So yeah, it's like, okay, cool, we just run ads. Well, okay, cool, the ad's not working. A lot of people, and I've seen it, will say, well, the website's rubbish. What are you going to do about it then? Well, we'll build you a new website, or we'll design you the website, or we'll provide guidance to your team, what we think would work best. And again, it's harder to train that into people because it comes from that innate curiosity. But you can find that in a lot of people, and I want 18 players around me anyway, and I want to work with clients that want that as well. So that is what I'd say the core. Really holistic is where I want to go. And it's really a similar kind of mindset that I think Omnia have themselves, right? It's harder to just look at one root cause of something because human beings are a lot more complex than that.
Yeah. So if only that was the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
One size fits all.
Exactly. And it can be difficult from an operational perspective because obviously we're almost starting from scratch every time we work with people. So my job now is really, how do I systemize and optimize that a little bit more? And there is ways, and we're working on it at the moment, but that is how I would say the core is.
Being at the other side of it as a client, obviously you're an external consultant.
Yeah.
But you've managed to somehow factor yourself in as part of the team, like really seamlessly. And I think it's really valuable.
Oh, good, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. How do you stay ahead of the curve and adapt to new trends and technologies?
Ask him why. I remember a teacher of mine told me once that there's this, I don't know how true this is, so don't quote me on it, but that there's a Chinese proverb that says going back, I know there's not one size fits all like we just said, but to find the root of any problem, you ask why 5 times. So why is my marketing rubbish? Well, what's the actual question? And you kind of keep going back and back until you actually get to what is the thing I need to actually deal with. So that is one thing, but also actually allocating time to learn. And I've actually got, like I said, almost a tribe of people around me. I've got one that is extremely switched on with AI. I've got one that's extremely switched on with cold outreach. I've got my team that are extremely switched on with ads. And I actually make a conscious effort to meet up with these people on a bi-weekly basis. And we literally get on a call and say, what have you been doing this week? Like, what have you learned that you can give me? And I'll do the same thing. And it's a give take. It's not like I'm just sitting there and asking the questions and you get all the value. So we actually block off an hour or two every other Sunday with friends.
Sunday?
Yeah, on Sunday. But it's a conversation with friends, having just a chat about what we've been doing, and then it sparks ideas. And I think you can really get into an echo chamber in your head. One, you think your thing looks really good, and when you show it to other people, it doesn't. And vice versa. It might be a bit too hard on yourself when everyone else thinks it's really good.
Even that, you've got a team of people that you're working with, and it shows that the value that you have in your team, but the team also have in you, to take out time on a Sunday to sit there and share ideas, because, as you said, it's not just about me taking the ideas as the head of the business. You're sharing these ideas with your team because there's this collective goal, and that goal is to learn, to grow, to develop, and rinse and repeat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's, it's kind of weird actually, doing my first lot of interviews, because I felt like I was the one being interviewed. Because I was like, I'm in like early 20s,
Yeah.
But I actually even that, because a lesson that I learned, the first ever person I hired, great guy, just wasn't great for the business for a few reasons. But that's because I just did it off my own back, and I liked the guy. Didn't really interview him. Just said, "I like you." You said, "You know what you're doing. Just get in now. I need your help now." Because of that burn after a few months, I then sought expert advice, and I got a recruiter in to help me, and that he made that process a lot easier and actually helped me put a kind of assessment center in. So now I've got like this thing in my business where like when I need to hire this specific role, I know exactly what needs to be asked and told of them. So a big part of that is getting them to actually do a task and seeing how they react to it. And I actually want to see higher quality, but I don't, like for example, a recent position I hired, I had two people whittled down. And I loved both of them, but there was one I preferred way more. Got them both to do a simulated task. And I noticed that the one who I liked the most wasn't the best because of the work wasn't as good as the other one. So the one I actually ended up hiring, work was fantastic, but the mindset of the person was amazing. Because I had a call with them to go through the task. Person A said, I said, "How'd you find the task?" They said, "Oh, it was really long. It just kept going and just kept going." In the back of my head, I'm paying them for this time, by the way. I'm interviewing an alpha to pay them for their time.
Wow.
Wasn't even
very
doing it.
rare.
Yeah, exactly, which I thought fine. The second person, her response was, "I loved it. I learned so much from it. Like it really allowed me to challenge myself." And that is what sold it for me. I didn't even, I was like, in my head, I was like, I want to stop this call and say you got the job. But and that's been clear in the business now because she'll come to me and say, "With this client's got this problem. This is how I think we should deal with it. What do you think?" Rather than we've got a problem. Like I want people that don't just come at me with problems. I want a problem, and this is how I think we should solve it. And it is a mindset thing, isn't it? You can instill that as a company. I'm not at a size yet to have that, but I want from the ground to have that. I'd rather have 3 people in my company that think like that than 10 that don't, and that will form the basis of any company.
Well, it goes to, I mean, there's solutions to most things, right? And I say this to like the team as well in terms of don't come to me with the problem, just a problem. Come to me with the solutions or a couple of solutions, because I might say, "Oh, I like a little bit of solution A, a little bit of solution B, and a little bit of solution C." And before you know it, we've come up with a brilliant idea to a difficult problem. But it's having those solutions and that attitude that we can overcome this that makes such a difference.
Exactly. And going back again, being around people that push you and whatnot. There's a really good book called Buying Back Time. And they say kind of what you just said about he's stopped getting his team to come to him with problems. It was instead, come to me with 3 solutions and you tell me which one's the best. You think's the best, sorry. Because 90% of the time, the solution you think is the best after looking at 3 solutions is going to be the best. And all you then need is to sign it off and say, "You want my support. Do what you think's best and just come back to it." But again, the head of the business, their job is to steer culture and to steer vision. And it's a hard thing to do at any stage, but it's something that you need to always have in the back of your mind.
Well, it sounds like you're doing it very well.
Try my best. Try my best.
So, Kai, thank you for sharing your journey and insights. It's been inspiring to hear how you've built Montaj Digital from the ground up while navigating the pressures of entrepreneurship. Before we go, is there one final piece of advice or encouragement you'd like to share with our listeners, particularly those managing stress and well-being in their careers?
Thank you so much for having me. Had a really great time, and it allowed me to articulate some of my ideas I didn't really realise I had as well, which is nice. But to all the listeners, I would just repeat to yourself, this too shall pass. Anything that's good is going to go. Anything that's bad is going to go. So live every day, enjoy every day, and be a good person, and good things will come back to you, I think. That would be my piece of advice.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Silent Epidemic. If Kai's story has inspired you, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Stay with us for more thought-provoking conversations on mental health and well-being next time. Thank you.